Hey, does anyone remember this?
胸板をドラミングとフェロモン発射とあれはなんだアスリートがいる違う銀シャリが前を向いている走れランナウェイ銀シャリボーイ二足歩行完成
That is a little series called Japan World Cup, a video game that's not really a video game, it's complicated. All you really need to know is you bet on horses, except the horses aren't really horses, and instead fever dreams. To add to the confusion, the game is only in Japanese, but the announcer's emotions as he calls the races really carry his commentary past the language barrier. But what if I told you that there is a hidden lore to Japan World Cup, that these horses have actual backstories that I will be revealing today? If that morbidly intrigues you, then stick around as I present to you Japan World Cup Explained. Let's start with number 1, probably the second most famous horse to race in Japan World Cup, Ginshari Boy, although most just know him as the horse who walks on 2 legs, which is simple and fitting. He is sired by Donburi Boy, and his dam is Geisha Crystal. In Japan World Cup 1, he initially presents himself as just a normal racehorse, but in the final furlong, he reveals his secret weapon, this, which actually has a name, being dubbed the Sushi Walk. This theme makes sense, as Ginshari in Japanese is a word for cooked white rice. And he also has another culinary move called the Onigiri Walk, which is a moonwalk that stops him to a halt and can cost him races. But by Japan World Cup 3, he perfects the move and even uses it to win. He can also do ballet spins, and just flat out sprint like a human. But those are just his abilities. His story goes that he won the Japanese Triple Crown while remaining undefeated, as well as taking the Tenosho Autumn, a race where he first displayed the Sushi Walk, which resulted in him getting a back injury and having to take a break from racing. But he did return to become the canonical winner of the first 2 Japan World Cups, making him by far the best horse in this race. And because why not, his favorite foods are uncooked rice and amberjack, because who needs hay anyway? It is also said that his sweat smells like vinegar. Also, his jockey, Masami Matsuka, is one of 3 people who could ride Ginshari Boy. He has a strong confidence in his horse, is a martial artist for some reason, and has a fierce desire to win. He also likes Ginshari Boy's strong smell, saying it helps them communicate, making this a good partnership, and cements Ginshari Boy as possibly the greatest racehorse in the world, and definitely one of the most iconic figures in all of Japan World Cup. This popularity has graced him with tons of fan art, as well as fan fiction. Hailing from France, sired by Escargot by Leotard, we give you number 2, the front-running Pink Pheromon. She is the 3-time champion filly of France and the winner of the Prix Vermeil, an all-white horse with an interesting fashion taste, wearing a masquerade and leggings during races, and just like Ginshari Boy, has a unique smell, this time of perfume, which makes sense considering her name. She can only be ridden by the Zola sisters, who are both models and equestrians with the unique skill of whips and stripping.
They're going naked? What the fuck?
Using her stripped clothes as projectiles to distract her opponents, increase her lead, and just start a merry-go-round till another horse comes around and wins. And all that other jazz. I can't even say that with a straight face. The second Japanese horse in this post-parade, he goes by as many names as he does hair colors. The Pompadour Fedor, as said by the legendary Jacksepticeye.
Pompadour Fedor!
Elvis horse.
Come on, Elvis! Yeah!
Josuke, or you can just call him by his racing name, Chokusen Bancho, which directly translates to straight boss. Sired by Gasoline Tengoku by Oxidol, he is the main rival to Ginshari Boy, with Ginshari Boy always winning up until Japan World Cup 3. Chokusen Bancho's greatest weakness as a horse was his wild temperament, which gave him adoring fans, but made it hard for him to focus and harness his abilities. But he finally found the rider to reveal his full potential in Kameji Tatakawa, a former motorcycle gang leader who rides him using Harley-Davidson handlebar reins and a bike engine that he attaches to his neck, which causes him to zigzag. Although he was hard to handle at first, Kameji was eventually able to tame the beast, turning him into a fierce competitor. When at his fullest potential, his legs are said to be the strongest of any horse, even greater than Ginshari Boy himself. but he's not just a one-trick pony, being able to also power a car with just his feet, and in Japan World Cup 3, he can lead a cavalry charge featuring every racehorse in Japan World Cup history, and also pull an entire J-pop concert behind him. In my personal headcanon, he is to me the winner of the 3rd Japan World Cup over Ginshari Boy, due to having more winning outcomes than any other horse, at 5. But that's up to interpretation. In America, the trend among racehorses is the longer the body, the better. Wait, you've never heard that before? Well, in Japan World Cup, that's how it is. The Kentucky Derby is now won by the Limousine horses, who have the longest bodies. The greatest of these is Hollywood Limousine, sired by Gib Melson by Tarantino Tolentino. He took both the Kentucky Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic in America, and now comes from America to Japan, with not just one, but 2 jockeys, the Chicken Brothers.
They're tandem twins! Their horse is elongating!
Yes, that is their last name. You got Rob Chicken and William Chicken, and together they pilot this beast of a horse, capable of stretching his already long body to insane lengths in order to win, or just pump his own body and fire it like a rocket. And now that we've had 4 weird horses, it's about time we have a runner who isn't even a horse at all. Burning Beef is a cow, not a bull, sired by Good BBQ by Tango Bullhorn, and ridden by Pedro Banderas, a jockey voted as having one of the top 100 greatest chest hairs in the world. Burning Beef may not be the smartest racer, but she is very fast when push comes to shove, winning the mile championship in Japan. She is also very strong. When a red cape is dropped in front of her, she is able to toss her opponents into air effortlessly. Very impressive considering most of her rivals are horses which can weigh over 1,000 pounds. Just make sure to stay on, because she could buck you off and graze just before the finish line if you're not careful. A literal horse of a different color. Savannah Stripe is what would happen if racing stripes got to race in Japan. Sired by Nairobi Dandy by Savannah Purdy and hailing from Kenya, Savannah Stripe's biggest victory was in the British Champion Stakes. His jockey, Muwe Senkon, is super athletic, even for jockey standards.
He's actually flopping around on top of it like he's a fish!
Capable of quite literally propelling his zebra to victory by spinning on his neck. Pretty impressive, but not very wacky compared to some of the other things these racehorses can do, which is saying a lot, since turning yourself into a helicopter while riding a zebra is not exactly normal. No fancy names here, this guy is just named Giraffe. Despite this, he is said to not be a giraffe at all, but a quote-unquote long-necked horse. Sure, we'll go with that. Whatever he is, Giraffe is a remarkable racer, up there with Ginshari Boy in terms of earnings, winning the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. His father was named Hynek, and his mom was named May Kubenagenwan, and he is ridden by jockey Edward Ellis, an old man who loves animals and comes from a prestigious family. Not much else is known about Edward, but for his age, he is surprisingly athletic, able to run up Giraffe's neck and stand on his head without losing balance. And speaking of necks, Giraffe's neck is unsurprisingly his main weapon. Using it like a metalhead, he shakes it up and down violently, gaining speed as he does, although this can come at a cost, as this move gave him a neck injury after Japan World Cup 1, so he was sidelined for a year, and another racer had to take his place in Japan World Cup 2. But she will come later. Eventually, Giraffe did return in the Animal International 2 years later, where he was still just as tough to beat. And last but not least for Japan World Cup 1, we have the most iconic racer in the series, Haribote Elegy. Although he has a pedigree, being by Den Boru Gakuen, I am so sorry for that pronunciation, and by Gum Tape Matsuri, he is created from cardboard, duct tape, and glue. So he is at least part horse, and powered by 2 people running with a costume on their heads and a jockey on their back. But he is a racehorse in our hearts. Despite being human-powered, Haribote's fastest time for a mile was 3 minutes 41.5 seconds, which is faster than the human 1-mile world record. Very impressive, but super slow for a racehorse. Still, he snuck into the biggest horse race in the world, although he usually only lasts the first half of the race before falling and breaking into pieces. But when the opportunity arises, Haribote Elegy will sneak past their opponents, piece by piece. In each Japan World Cup, a new Haribote Elegy is made with modified improvements to the design. Haribote Elegy 2.0 replaces the hollow inside with a barrel that can be used to roll past distracted opponents, although it still breaks just as easily. And in the third Japan World Cup, we get Haribote Elegy 3.0. Easily the best design, as it adds a third pair of legs that can leave the body and help hold Haribote together around turns, making it so this Haribote Elegy breaks apart less frequently. He also possesses a pair of oars, which can be used to row him past the finish line without having to be the last racer standing. Also in Japan World Cup 3, he is honored with his very own race, the Haribote Memorial, where runners from Japan World Cups 1 and 2 are turned into cardboard. It's fantastic. And that's every runner for the first Japan World Cup. Now we'll round out this video by covering Japan World Cup 2, which has 3 new runners in it. The first of our 3 new shooters hails from China. Sired by Pan Pan by Man Man, we have Concon, the racing panda. Despite not having any major victories, Concon's cuteness made sure he made it in. His jockey, Li Lao Chu, is self-proclaimed to be 100 years old. Concon's main ability has less to do with Kung Fu and much more to do with rolling, being able to turn himself into a ball with his old jockey trapped in the middle. Hopefully his bones aren't broken. He can also turn into this, which I think is a robot? That must be really uncomfortable to sit on. Everyone loves to root for a little horse, so Japan World Cup features the littlest horse. Hailing from Australia, sired by Pete Mayonnaise by Good Ketchup, we have Pee-pee Donuts. I think I'll just call him Donuts. And to ride a little horse, he needs a little rider. So we are going from the oldest jockey to the youngest, the 3-year-old Concon Jr., who is a ski-jumping Australian pirate assassin and one of the top 100 most feared men in the world. He is also said to be a terrible nephew. Ironically, at just 3 years old, he's actually younger than his horse, who is 4 years old. Despite their age and small size, both Concon and Donuts are multi-talented and able to learn multiple skills in just a short amount of time, such as mimicking the abilities of the other racers, being one of only 2 horses who can perform Ginshari Boy's Sushi Walk. He can also don a miniaturized bike engine and zigzag like Chokusen Bancho, even nosing him out on occasion, dance in tandem with the Chicken Brothers, and his smaller size also means he can ride on the backs of other racers, hopping off his opponents until he crosses the wire first. And last, but certainly not least, we have our biggest runner. Sired by Giganto by Hanana Gainwan, and hailing from Thailand, we have Jumbo Namplar. Now she might be an Asian elephant, but she tries to fit in with the equine spirit with her horse mask on her trunk, although she isn't afraid to drop the mask when need be. She works alongside Giraffe from the first Japan World Cup, taking over for him in Europe after he injured his neck, and taking the Queen Elizabeth Stakes. She definitely is not the fastest, but is quite easily the strongest racer in Japan World Cup history. While she is a very calm and well-behaved elephant, elephants are still wild animals at the end of the day, and if she's angry, she will flick away any opponent that stands in her way with her trunk. That trunk is also great in a pinch, stretching to incredible lengths to get past her opponents. Her jockey is Mue Senkon, the same jockey for Savannah Stripe in the first Japan World Cup. No acrobatics this time from him, as instead Jumbo Namplar uses him as a prop to stretch her trunk even further across the finish line. Is he dead? Most impressively in my opinion, Jumbo Namplar is so huge that she is even immune to the abilities of some other runners. In the Animal International in Japan World Cup 3, she withstands Burning Beef's bull charge multiple times and then swats her away like a fly. She also briefly returned in the main Japan World Cup in Japan World Cup 3, being hidden inside the Trojan horse and then swiping away all opponents in her path once again. But the Trojan horse and other horses added in Japan World Cup 3 will have to wait another time, with the third Japan World Cup having a 4-race undercard and the main race itself having 5 new racers. It's safe to say it's big enough to be its own video. And if you want that to happen, tell me that in the comment section below, and I will explain Japan World Cup 3. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this explanation of the first 2 Japan World Cups, and I'll see you guys next time.